up on them interwebs.
Yep, we are now live, so we'll go ahead and start recording. Sound levels look all right. I'm not hearing that annoying noise in the background as bad, but I can edit that out in post if necessary.
Please don't refer to me as that, George.
Sure. Okay. Three, two, one. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Spacemen with Guns podcast. Coming to you this beautiful Monday afternoon from a combination of locations here in beautiful, sunny Des Moines, Iowa, where it's about 60 degrees outside, which is very unusual for February. Don't get me wrong, it's actually awesome because we've been hammered with blizzards and ice storms the last couple of weeks, but again, it is winter here, so we are accustomed to that. But I can't speak for the weather on the other side of the world.
In snowy Leeds, it's -1 in real money. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. But yeah, it's
Probably
pretty
about
cold
30.
here.
Wow. It's actually warmer here than over in the UK.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool,
Yeah,
huh?
it's we're having a cold front. It's been nicknamed the Beast from the East. Apparently, Russia's sending us some cold weather. So yeah, it's been
Those
snowing
crazy
today, which
Russians.
was delightful because I've been connecting lampposts outside in a car park in
Of
Leeds,
course.
and yeah, that was a bit freezing.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's kind of funny because my mom was in Seattle visiting my aunt last week or something, and they're actually planning a trip to the UK in, I think, the last 2 weeks of May. And they're actually flying into Edinburgh, and then they're going to be coming down south. Their
Nice.
original intention was to fly into London, I think on May 19th, until my cousin informed them that that's actually the date of the royal wedding. So they
Have they got an invite?
changed their plan. It must have gotten lost in the mail.
Yeah.
So they're actually starting
Are they,
out in the north and then coming down to the north of England. And I think my
are they
mom,
visiting Warhammer World?
I don't think that's on their itinerary, actually.
Oh man.
But I know my mom did make mention that they're going to apparently like the world's oldest candy shop or something that's in and around the Yorkshire Dales. And I'm like, I'm jealous because I want to go see that,
Nice.
as well as a number of other things. I'm just like, if I ever get to the UK, it's just going to be just like a road trip the length of the
Yeah.
entire country.
It'll take about 3 hours.
Well, for us here, that's about one side of Iowa to the other. Well, not quite.
Yeah.
About 2.5 hours to either side of the state from where I am. But,
I was
so
listening
we're here
to
to
I was listening to how I remember saying it. Someone was saying how much small, like for us a 3 hour trip is like a full day out. Whereas to you, it's like I'll drive that. If someone
do.
said to me, I'll come on to this later on when we talk about other things, but you're like 3 or 4 hours is like you're really gonna travel 4 hours for something, right? Yeah,
For us, that's a day trip.
yeah,
Well, it has been a while since we put out an episode, about 2 weeks, I think, now. And of course, it's been a little bit longer than that since both Dave and I have been on together, but we're back and we're going to talk about we're going to do kind of a follow on to the super detailing episode that I did with David Sampson from Black Label Painting. And we're going to be focusing more on the lighting aspect of super detailing. And Dave had made a comment the other day that doing stuff like lighting is for when you can't paint as well as other people.
yeah. LED lights and lens caps. It is
Yes.
we can't paint to the high standard that some people can, and we need a little booster to make people say wow.
Just a little bit extra, which never hurts anything. And it's just, it's a little bit more work and we'll kind of talk about some of that. But of course, we'll, as usual, do a quick hobby update. Big news. Fister of Dominion is done. Everything is done.
Boom.
completed it. The base is done. Everything's wired, painted. Base has been black rimmed twice, actually, twice.
Oh, you didn't put it on a clear base, no?
Oh, you know what? I should have put it on a clear. No, fuck clear bases.
It was so funny watching it on Instagram and stuff and talking to you about it. Um, the ball when it began rolling, it just seemed to pick up speed, but it just started obviously quite slow.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah.
because you were having to you got it, you had to strip it down, you had to break it apart, you had to then send it off, and it took a couple of months before anything actually happened. But all in this last sort of 2-3 weeks, everything just come together, and it's been really good. There's been an update every day and things.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it picked up pace.
For anyone that isn't a regular listener and hasn't heard about the Fister of Dominion, it's a Cestus assault ram that I got in trade last October, and it was painted very poorly. The assembly was somewhat lacking, and of course you can't get them from Forge World right now. They've been out of stock at Forge World since at least September. So and that's about the time I decided I needed one for my army. Well, I lucked into this one and went through the process of completely stripping the paint, ended up having to have a friend soda blast it to get the last of the paint off, which worked beautifully. Took the thing completely apart, reassembled it, painted the interior, put lights in the interior, and then of course all the work that went along with that, and then completely had to redo a base in order to run wiring to the battery that's actually hidden inside the base. There's actually a Baneblade chassis that was given to me. It wasn't complete, and so I chopped that up and turned that into some groundwork and did some pretty cool stuff with that. There's actually, I just put up a video yesterday that I recorded Saturday that's sort of a showcase of the ASRAM, or the ASRAM Grand Sport as it has become known. I'm really happy with how it came out. So you can definitely check out that video. There's some pictures on our Instagram page as well as my personal Instagram. And other news, completed my jet bikes a couple of weeks ago. I'm working on my Damocles right now. So once I get the Damocles done and my 5 suzerain, I'll have everything I need for my 3,000 point list for hashtag bout with the route, which Jamie and I still haven't set a date. We talked a couple of weeks ago and we've got some ideas, but we need to actually nail down a date so we can do some more planning for it. But
so Jamie was getting a bit of practice in this weekend at Tarsus.
He was at Tarsus. That was, as usual, rave reviews from everyone. So good job to talk to over at Geno52 for putting on another excellent event. I played a game 2 weeks ago against some word bearers, 2,500 points. Can't remember the exact scenario or the exact army makeups, but I took some new units. So I took the jet bikes as well as my Vindicator laser destroyer just to try out. And I think the highlight, the highlight of the game for me was the laser destroyer taking 2 or 3 wounds off of a demon prince, and then the hull mounted heavy bolter from my Sicaran finally finishing off the
nice.
Demon Prince. And I also got to run Gilliman in that game, but he was foot slogging with a group of Terminators, and all they managed to do is kill a Marigal Dreadnought and a regular Contemptor Dreadnought. But
look, the Marigal's not a slouch.
No, it was angry.
That thing proper wrecked face in my game against Jamie. It smashed my Leviathan to pieces.
Oh yeah, they will definitely do that. So it was cool to get to try out some of those new units I'd never used before. And of course, my Volkite Culverin squad did an exceptional job. That's basically going to be an auto include in every list from now on. I think I need to get 5 more so I can run a full 10-man squad.
Nice.
But I played my good friend Tony, and he actually ended up taking the victory 3 points to 2. But it was still a great game. He did some demon summoning and stuff like that, so very, very word bearer-y. And it was pretty cool. I was supposed to have a game
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was supposed to have a game last week against a World Eaters player, and unfortunately, the owner of the game store we play at was sick that day, so that actually didn't get to happen. Because I was really hoping to try out the ASRAM, even though the base wasn't 100% complete. There was still some weathering left to do, but it was at least painted and had a couple of, I think it had a clear coat and a flat coat on, or gloss coat and a flat coat. The decals were on. It was black rimmed. I just hadn't had a chance to do all the basing. But so hopefully sometime in the next week or two, next couple of weeks, I'll be able to test out the Astram on the table and see how it does. So, yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks of progress on everything. So I got some more stuff ordered as well. Actually, today I actually got an order from Forge World, so I got the Age of Darkness Legions book as well as some more Forge World paint because I'm really starting to like that stuff. Is even as expensive and limited supply as it is, it's also really nice paint. And I've got some pretty cool colors.
You've got a new model to paint up as well. One might have arrived in the post.
Yes, one did arrive in the mail, along with another of some more treats from the UK, half of which I've already eaten.
Only half.
I've still got a few things left. Dave sent me a care package of goodies, and I've already eaten the 2 packages of McVitie's. And let's see, I ate the round trees fruit pastilles, whatever they are.
Pastels. Yep.
Yeah, eating all of those, working my way through the fruit gums, started into the Yorkshire mixture. There were 2 Kinder eggs that I let my children try. Some people might claim as irresponsible. I did. They did not choke on it.
You see the Kinder egg, the toy's in a capsule, whereas that Kinder Joy that you opened, once you peel that back, it's not even in a capsule, is it? It's the toy is just
no. I mean, you probably
out.
There's a bigger choking hazard with a Kinder Joy, I think, because there's nothing actually protecting it.
And you might eat the plastic spoon.
Yeah. I was actually I had stopped at the supermarket last Tuesday when I had a break for lunch, and I happened to walk by this display of Kinder Joy, which I thought, it's another thing from along the lines of the Kinder Egg, but you actually open it and it peels into 2 halves. One has the chocolatey candy stuff, which was actually surprisingly good. And the other side has the little trinkety toy, which is still in the cup holder in my car. But it wasn't anything. And I didn't even get to try any of the Kinder Egg. My kids just devoured them. And there's actually a recording of that. I did record that, and I will put that at the end of this show. So there's a little tidbit for you guys to look forward to. So that's what I've been up to. Dave, how about yourself?
Slow and steady.
That's always a good thing.
So I purchased some secondhand, some painted, some part built Solar Auxilia from James, formerly of Tabletop War James, now Westbergs Gaming James, on Instagram and Facebook. Some of them were painted. Oh, I think you commented. He's done a really good job with the airbrush. He does a lot of airbrushing, and so I've kept the models, the painting style that he's done, because he's done a really good job with the airbrushing on the power axes for the Veletaris storm section with axes. But I've rebased them because they were all based in slightly not to my rest of my army. So rebased a lot of the stuff that he sent me. I've started painting up the first of my 20-man tertia of Last Rifles. They're not that much fun to paint, and I've just been doing them like 5 at a time. But they're dead fiddly, to get in around the armor and things like you. I think you've painted a squad of Veletaris, haven't you?
I painted one.
Oh, one guy.
Yeah, one guy.
Yeah, I've got about 100 to paint. Yeah, so, Last Rifles, I think I've got to 80 Last Rifle guys to paint. I've currently finished 0. I have almost finished 10, but I'm not enjoying it.
There's a lot of detail on those things.
Yeah, I will crack on because I really enjoyed painting the Axe Squad when I first got them.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the first 20, then I'm going to do the Command Squad because there's a bit more detail in that, and that's sort of the stuff that I like doing the taking time on one model at a time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rush for this. It's very much like I've got my Ultramarines when one of our clubs. There's a club in Leeds, the Leeds Battle Bunker. They've actually found like a permanent residence now, not very far from me, and they do a Monday night game club. So hopefully I'll be able to get a few pickup games in the next couple of weeks, months, and just start properly playing with my ultras while I'm working on the solar.
With your little plastic men.
Yeah, so it will be a lot of fun if I can get in there, and it seems like there's quite a few people I've seen. I recognise a lot of people on the Facebook group from Games Workshop in Leeds. So obviously you can't play Heresy there. So I think everyone just goes to Leeds group.
Lame.
Hopefully I'll be getting some games in. I've been having discussions with you, with Stu and Tom about getting set with an airbrush. I was saying to you, like, I don't think my style of painting fits in with how I want to do the vehicles of the Solar. So I'm just going to use that for basically doing the vehicles.
Yeah.
But I need to learn airbrushing. So I've been looking at different airbrushes and all the kit that I need. It's coming. Not yet.
Yeah, it's
watch this space.
It's definitely a investment and a learning curve, but it will definitely kind of take your game to a whole other level.
Although this isn't hobby progress, I have booked onto a Cult of Paint course.
Yeah.
In April in Cardiff at Firestorm Games. So this is where I was saying, when I said to my wife, I'm going to go to a painting course, it's in Cardiff. She went, do you know how far that is? I was like 4 hours? And it's 4 hours each way. But it's only one day, so I don't need to stay away. I can do it in the day.
That's going to be a long day.
It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be worth it.
Oh, definitely.
Learning brushwork skills from Andy Wardle is going to be definitely be worth a trip out.
That'd be worth it. It'd be worth it.
The good thing I liked about it, I really enjoyed doing Richard Gray's course last year.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely wasn't aimed at a beginner. You were expected to have a certain level of skill. Whereas this course is, although I'm not a beginner painter, I'm still a very low on the scale of technique ability that I have. So this one's a beginner's course. It's learning about glazing. It's learning about things like that. So yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. Well, and you made a comment to me the other day that you kind of felt like your painting skills had plateaued, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think you do an excellent job painting and your brushwork is exceptional. That's kind of something that again, the fact that you're willing to consider that maybe without any sort of outside help or stepping outside the box or outside of your comfort zone, you're not going to get any better. And that's kind of what I want people to this year, especially. I mean, making 2018 the year of heresy is stepping outside their comfort zone, going to do stuff to make themselves better, doing stuff that's maybe taking a bit of a risk in order to get better and to try new things and to advance their skill set and to become better and to build paint better models and stuff like that. Because I've had people say, oh, I can't believe you do that. It's like, oh, I'm afraid to do that kind of thing. It's like, well, if you're not going to push yourself or you're not going to try new things, you're not going to step outside what you feel comfortable doing, you're not going to get any better. You're not going to progress. I mean, it's just like, it's like with anything, with schoolwork or with, sports or anything, unless you push yourself and go to that place where it's uncomfortable, you're not going to get comfortable with that and become better. So
I think one of the things I've been seriously looking at his Patreon and who I'm following on Patreon. I currently follow Richard Gray, and as good a painter he is, and his video tutorials on there are fantastic. He's not currently painting anything that I'm that interested in. He's been doing a lot of his Nurgle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at other options of styles that I like. Whose style do I like painting? Miles from Little Legend Studio. I quite like his because it's not super clean. Like Richard Gray's is it's super clean, but then he makes it dark and dirty. But his painting is super clean. Whereas Miles is sort of very if you would picture Heresy, somebody painting an army in the Heresy style. Miles is very much of that Heresy style. It's
Mm-hmm.
quite gritty. I've actually just sent him Rogel Dawn, and
Oh, really?
I've commissioned him to paint Rogel Dawn.
What do you need a Rogel Dorn for?
because I really like the model.
Oh, okay.
I have Alexis Pollux. I think that model's fantastic.
Yeah.
I really like the Sigismund model.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fantastic. Really love Dawn. So I think I'm going to get him to do Dawn for me, which I'm really excited about getting a model done by him. And then I'm just going to practice and get Pollux and Sigismund looking like just as display pieces, and they're going to be pieces that I'm just going to test new things out. And I think one of the things I was thinking is just get on eBay and buy crappy sprues of models.
Yeah.
And practice techniques. It'd be one of the things that I'm going to try and do. I've got my army to a stage where I don't need any more Ultramarines. I will add bits and pieces, but I've definitely
What?
I've definitely got a really really good playable force that I'm happy to practice with.
Mm-hmm.
Without like I think Tom was saying, like, get used to the army you're playing and play with it and practice and just get good at using the army.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll give me more time to practice painting other styles of painting or other models. Not
Yeah.
necessarily power armor, just different textures and things. So,
Well, and
I'm
that's
gonna
kind
look
of
at
the
doing that.
thing, at the same time that you developed a certain style for one particular army, that to progress with that same army, eventually you're going to get to the point where your most recent model hardly resembles, some of your older work. And then you come to the point where it's like, well, do I leave it like this or do I completely redo the army? So, I mean, yeah, having random stuff around just to toy around with or to practice your painting techniques on it is never a bad idea. I mean, I've got a number of different things laying around the shop for just that reason.
Yeah, I've got 3 Primaris models that I sat there doing nothing. I think they're quite good because it's a bigger surface area to
Yeah.
practice on before bringing it back down to sort of Mark 4, Mark 3 size model. So yeah, things to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Comfort zone and new stuff, learning new things and becoming better at what you want to do. And kind of along that same vein, I have kind of an announcement that I'm going to throw out there, and we'll see kind of what happens. Sorry, I'm trying to send some PayPal money to somebody while we're talking, just so I don't forget. The idea came up a few weeks ago that well, it came up. I mean, if you listen to the last episode of the Covenant of Fire podcast, I spent some time on Skype with Jake Bussey trying to help him work out some issues he was having with some weathering stuff on one of his Salamanders vehicles. And I kind of had the idea. It's like I should just start like a heresy hobby helpline where people could, they'll set up an appointment with me through email, and then we could, Skype for half an hour or something. And I could try and offer them help on whatever it is that I do. I mean, I'm not by any means, I'm not a bad painter. I'm not an exceptional painter, but I know a lot of random crap that can sometimes come in handy. So
there's a lot of things that you bring from your scale modeling background.
Yeah.
That
a lot of weird random tricks. But so I think this will kind of be the official announcement of the Heresy Hobby Helpline from Mediocre Modeling Studios, sponsored by the Spacemen with Guns. So if you're interested, if you just kind of coming into something, you can't quite figure something out, you're having some trouble, you want to see how I do certain things or a certain method of doing certain things, you can go ahead, shoot me an email. The email for this is going to be mediocremodelingstudios@gmail.com. You can shoot me an email. We can set up a time for like a half hour or whatever. And, we'll jump on Skype or Hangouts or whatever. And, I can try and offer you whatever sort of assistance I can. And this is, I will be hobbying at my workbench at the exact same time. So this is like completely free service. It's like, I'm not going to charge you for this. This is like a free service to help other heresy players. If you want help with like your Tyranids or your orcs or whatever, I'm not the one you want to call with that. This is just like for heresy stuff, because I can, I know a bit about painting Space Marines and tanks, and I could probably help you fuck up your Mechanicum or whatever. But so if you're having some trouble with something, you're interested, to shoot me an email. We can set up a time and hopefully help you out with that. So.
Yeah, well, when I get into the airbrushing side, I'll definitely be wanting to link up with you and watch. I definitely learn more from a visual standpoint.
Yeah,
seeing things. If I can just see your brush control and then try and replicate it, I think that'll help.
Yeah, definitely. So with all that stuff out of the way, I think we're almost a half hour into it. We can start talking about, for those of us that don't paint so well and we got to make our models pop somehow, we just shove some lights in them. So this is something that both Dave and I can speak to, because we both got experience with this. I think I've only done the one model. That was the ASRAM that I put lights into, but I know Dave has done several, and also the fact that he is, an electrician of all things. So
yeah.
So why don't you kick it off and let us all in on what your your experiences are with lighting miniatures.
Cast your mind back many years. The first model I ever put
I'm drunk. So I was in my early 20s. I'm drunk. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the first model that I ever put LEDs in was an Imperial Knight. When the Imperial Knight models first came out, it's probably about 5 years ago. It was a while ago now. I put 2 LEDs in the eyes and 2 in the volcano, not volcano. Some sort of big shooty plasma cannon thing.
Oh yeah.
In the arm. Yeah, so I put them in. I made the carapace removable on the top. If you look on my Instagram, I think there's some pictures way back. I think the first picture or the first or second picture I ever posted was a picture of these. And what I did, I found a blog online that actually had a tutorial. Now, some blogs with tutorials about LED work, they're quite vague in picture. And like I said, I work better off a picture. If I can see something, I can replicate it. If I read about a technique, I struggle to get it exactly right. And there were a couple where there weren't many pictures on it, but I found one. So I put LEDs in that. And then I thought, well, okay, so I bought another kit and I put some LEDs into a rhino. but then I actually converted it to a Razorback. So they were both my Space Wolves. Used them in my first Armies on Parade, and won a silver on Armies on Parade. Now, those two models were definitely models that grabbed people's attention because people were going, "Oh wow, how do you do that?" Whereas I think if I hadn't had those models, the display board wouldn't have done as well.
Yeah.
It was definitely something that brought creativity, and I know that a lot of painters sort of like, well, it's a bit of a cheat way, but it draws interest to a model that's no one ever looks at a Razorback and goes, "Wow," do they? No one ever looks at a Rhino and goes, "Oh, that's a really really cool Rhino." Like, I don't care how well you've painted it. If you paint all your army fantastic, well, no one's looking at a Rhino. But if you put 4 LEDs in the front headlights, people are gonna say, "Oh, that's really cool."
Yeah.
And for me, that draws the attention. So yeah, I did those two models, and then now really it's sort of like just terrain I'm going to be using them in. I know a lot of people use. You can get like a tea light, like a battery powered tea light, and people use them for explosion markers and things like that. Like lots of people have got them, but they're just really cool. If you've got like a building, you can pop a couple inside a building. It looks like a burning building and things like that.
Yeah.
So I've got a few of them knocking about. I find that you've just got to be careful when drilling holes. Like
Yeah.
drill smaller and work up, because if you drill a hole too big, the LED is going to just pop through. It's
Yeah.
no good.
And because you use like some larger, like what, 3mm LEDs?
I've got 3s and 5s. It depends what I'm
Yeah.
using for. Yeah, but the
Those
3mm are
and
in the models. Yeah.
yeah, and those are actually fairly large for modeling LEDs because the ones that I used, I mean, I think they're, let's see, there's Pico, Nano, and Chip are the different sizes. I think I used Nano. I didn't use the smallest one, but I didn't use the largest one. And they're just tiny, tiny little lights. And you can fit those just about anywhere. But the thing you need to consider is you still have to run wiring to them. You still have to, if the ones that I bought actually came pre-wired with resistors. So if you don't have ones that are pre-wired, you need to worry about resistors. You need to worry about
Get them pre-wired with resistors.
yes.
Like, search for the ones that are pre-wired with resistors, because you're messing about otherwise.
Yeah. I was able to get the ones that I used at my local hobby shop, and they get theirs from a company called Evan Designs. If you go to like I think it's modeltrainsoftware.com, you can order all kinds of different LEDs, all the stuff you're going to need for it. You can get them in different voltages. Like the ones that I happened to buy were 9 volt. So since I already bought them, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to find a way to make it work with 9 volt. But you can also get them in, I think, 6 volt and 3 volt. And you can also get some that can, you can plug in to your wall outlet and they'll run off that power. Doesn't work so well for gaming, but there's that. If I could have done it over again, I probably would have tried to have gotten some 3 volt or 6 volt. So then I could have just used the small button batteries instead of a 9 volt. But I was able to work it out, so it works surprisingly well. But if you want to put lights in, it's a great idea. It's really cool. It's not that much work. It's more just logistics and planning and just sitting there looking at the model, figuring out, okay, here's where I'm going to put the light. So how am I going to thread through this wiring? Where am I going to hide this resistor? Where am I going to put the power source?
Sometimes you've got to cut sections of a model and patch it up. Like, I think, like on the Rhino, you have to run it through and then. Well, I left the back hatch open, but some people you can just put a toggle switch on the bottom.
Yeah, and that's another thing is, do you want it to have a switch? Do you want it to not have a switch? You also need to figure out, okay, where am I going to put my power source? How am I going to access my power source in the event that the battery dies?
Batteries run out.
Yeah, especially one thing. certain aspects, certain things are not going to be accessible, period. So if something fails, you're done unless you want to take them all completely apart. Like there's so much wiring, and there's some connections that I actually did by splicing some wires together and then covering them with shrink tube. So if the shrink tube somehow failed in several spots and wires touched and shorted out, that's it. I can't fix it without completely taking the model apart. So that's one thing to kind of consider.
Yep.
And I mean, there are numerous points of failure when you're doing something like this, because I had to shorten wires, I had to connect wires in various ways. So, I had to insulate them from each other, to try and prevent a short of some nature. And starting to drill holes through a solid resin model, it's like, okay, there's no coming back from this now. This half-inch hole is there. There's no coming back without a lot of putty work. And it's just, I'm not trying to scare people away here. I know I'm just like talking about horror stories, but
plan it out first.
Exactly. There's a lot of planning work that goes into it. That's the hardest part, is just figuring out, like we said, how you're going to do it, where you're going to run stuff, and everything like that. The supplies for it are not particularly expensive. And again, local hobby shops, train stores, RC stores are the best places to get this stuff. There's also lots of places online. I don't know anything about electricity, but with some help from Dave and just kind of looking at some stuff online, some YouTube videos, I figured this thing out, and I'm just ecstatic about how it turned out. And I've got
eBay is pretty full of things like that.
Amazon.
There are some MDF terrain companies out there that do sort of MDF buildings with all the stuff that you need to put LEDs inside them.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy different coloured LEDs: green, red, cool white, warm white.
Get them that flash.
Yeah, there's eBay, Amazon. There's an absolute ton of stuff that you can see out there.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those come with the full wiring, resistors done.
Yeah.
Just add some batteries.
Yeah. And there's even, we talked about like where you're going to run the wires, how you're going to hide certain things. There are even times where you can actually incorporate the components into the structure of the model. Like on the ASRAM, I've got the lights in the ceiling of these tuna cells. Well, I just kind of, made the wires squared in the way that I moved them back to look like they were supposed to be there. Like the resistor is just glued to the ceiling, so it looks like a junction box.
Yeah,
of some sort.
you've got cabling inside.
Yeah.
And planes and things anyway. So as long as it's not just hanging down, make it look neat.
Yeah. And then, everyone just kind of thinks that's the way it's supposed to be. And there's going to be times where you're probably going to have to, scratch build some parts to go in place of a kit part that would just be too much work to modify in order to make this work. So you're going to have to drill lots of holes. You're going to have to modify some parts, and you might give up some functionality in one aspect, like a little bit of range of motion or something, in order to get the lighting inside. But, and again, that's kind of a personal choice. It's like, okay, would I rather this thing be able to turn or move, or would I rather, have it light up and have limited range of motion or something like that? And again, there, in a perfect world, you could get everything with enough work. I'm sure you could probably figure that out. I'm not mechanically minded at all, so it's a minor miracle I was able to pull this off. But, and like we said, there's really not a huge amount of components to it, and there aren't a lot of tools that you really need. I mean, we could take, a couple minutes here to kind of talk about some of the, the stuff that you need. So obviously you need some lights, and you can get them pre-wired, you can get them without. Again, we'd both highly recommend buying pre-wired lights of some nature, all different sizes, and you can just glue them in place, whatever, and then, run your wiring, all different kinds of wiring.
So you're going to need a pin vise.
Yeah. A pin vise with a lot of different bits, depending on what you need to do. So I think for the Cestus, I ended up drilling holes that were 1/4 inch in diameter through the entirety of the model in the rear, because I had to run wires from one nacelle to the other that connected up together with the lights from that one. And then I had to run that wiring back down through that channel backwards towards the rear of the craft, and then down through another hole that actually fit that went into where the flight stand fits into the base. And I actually had to replace the plastic flight stand with a piece of brass tubing in order to run wires down to the switch and the power source. You're going to need a power source of some sort. So,
yeah, which is one of the things that we touched on last time, was make sure that your power source is correct for it. Obviously, you can put one 3 volt button cell onto it. You can put 2 3s together to make a 6. You can get a 9 volt. You can get a 10 point something. You can get obviously AAA, AA, all stacked together. Like, there are different. Some will run out if you don't power it with enough. It'll kill the battery. If you power it too much, it's going to be dead super bright. You need to think about the sort of amount of light that you need to come from the LEDs. Inside the gun on the Imperial Knight, you want a nice bright red light coming out of it. But I think we were talking about the motor that I'm running for the antenna on top of my Damocles. The power that I need for the motor doesn't fit inside a Rhino chassis at all. So I'm really struggling. So I'm having to run it currently on a smaller voltage, but it dies quickly.
yeah.
So if I could have planned it, I would. I don't want to wreck the Rhino, but if I cut the bottom of the Rhino out, it'll go in. But I don't want to cut the bottom of the Rhino out.
Yeah.
But it may just need me to make some false paneling.
Yeah.
Like a lowered floor.
Why don't you try it with something bigger, like a Land Raider or something, or a Spartan?
Yeah, like a command Land Raider.
Yeah, yeah.
See,
Or get like get a glaive or a fell blade or something and make the turret rotate.
That would look good.
That would be awesome. You see the fucking fell blade turret just spinning around at like 200 RPM.
Just searching for targets.
Yeah. So yeah, power source is definitely something you really need to think about. You don't want it overpowered. You don't want it underpowered. Of course, you're going to need wiring of some sort. Again, different sizes. You can get some super, super thin wiring. But again, you also want to think about how are you going to insulate these connections, because you're more than likely not going to be able to run your lights directly to your power source. So you need to get some additional wiring so you can tie those together. Shrink tubing or electrical tape of some nature. I used mostly shrink tubing with the exception of one spot where I used some electrical tape as backup to the shrink tubing, because I'd actually cut some wires too short and I wasn't entirely confident in the shrink tubing. So I electrical taped them over as well. Electrical tape, as we all kind of know, isn't like a permanent solution for most things, but for a gaming miniature, it's probably going to work just fine.
I use it for everything.
Yeah, well, you're also a professional, so maybe you know some stuff I don't.
Just slap it on.
Well, okay, here's one thing. When I was in middle school, my parents have always been remodeling their house. I actually helped my dad wire an outlet in their house. My dad's a carpenter. He's not an electrician, but he knows enough. That outlet is still working nearly 20 years later. It's actually probably been 20 years, and that outlet's still working.
Perfect. Do you want a job?
But yeah, shrink tubing, it's also fun to play with because you put it on there, you hit it with your wife's hair dryer. And
your wife's hair dryer, your beard dryer.
Oh no, she actually gave me her old hair dryer because I kept running upstairs and using hers in the bathroom to heat up resin to bend it. So she just gave me her old one. So I've got my own hair dryer in the basement just for modeling work, which is great.
Well, Andy Wardle actually uses one for drying coats between his airbrushing, because I was watching him live on the Instagram feed the other day. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah, that you could do that. I have a double action airbrush, so I can do just air or air and paint. So sometimes if I've got a really light coat of paint on, I'll just push for air and just kind of spray normal air on it to help it dry. I normally like to let it dry by itself, but that's me.
Yeah.
So let's see, other stuff that you need: a switch of some sort. I
So
started
many
out,
types of switches.
yeah. There's push buttons, sliders, toggle switches, 3 position, 2 position, what on, just depends on what you want to do. I started out with some very small slider switches and decided that wasn't the route I wanted to go because I was going to have some difficulty fitting the wires, and there was no way to really get them to stick, the wires to
Yeah.
actually stick to the connections. I tried super gluing them, which actually prevented them from making a connection, so the switch didn't work. So I ended up getting a bigger toggle switch, which is really cool because I can flip it back and forth like I'm flying a helicopter or something. And it had holes through the pins on the back of the switch, so I could actually run the wires through that, and it was much more secure. Slid the piece of shrink tubing over the connection, bada bing, bada boom. There we go. Power source and a connector of some sort. Like I've just got one of those little 9-volt pop-on things you get. You can get those little coin cell holders for the smaller button cell batteries. I would also very strongly recommend a good pair of wire strippers. You can do it with just like a hobby knife, but you also risk like cutting the wires and isn't so great.
Yeah. You can get holders for batteries that have switches on as well, which is sort of just what I use for the the little 3-volt cells when you're using 2 of them together, and the little holder that comes with them just has a little switch on top. So if you can access it, if it's inside a vehicle and you can open a door to get it. With mine, I've not painted the interior, so I wasn't bothered about the interior because that's where all the wiring's housed.
Yeah.
If I was to do it again, I would probably hide the wiring in the sides and do a proper job on the interior, but
yeah. And then again, you kind of run into the issue of, well, where are you going to put the power source that it is accessible?
Yeah.
Because again, like we mentioned before, should the battery, die over time because you're too busy playing with your toys to turn it off? Because let's face it, you've got something wired, you want it to be on and you want to see it all the time because it's so fucking cool.
Yep.
So, but you need to consider, where am I going to put the power source that I can access it should I ever need to change it out? And again, using, like if we take Dave's Knight for an example, he's got the top of the Knight removable, the carapace, so that he can get in and get to the battery. Like with the Cestus, I've got wiring running down through the flight stand into the base, which is then all hidden inside this shattered Baneblade chassis. Well, I actually cut out a panel with a hacksaw and made it removable so that I can get to I can get to the battery, take it out and replace it if I need to. And also so I can just take it out, even though it actually kind of helps because it adds more weight to the base because this ASRAAM is so heavy. And I mean, I've got like 3 shotgun shells worth of lead shot weighing this thing down, a bunch of DAS modeling putty weighing this thing down. I mean, this base probably weighs 1.5 pounds on its own. But it is surprisingly
It's
solid.
a big chunk of resin sat on top of it.
Yeah, that's also very, very heavy. So, but again,
shotgun shell.
Yeah, hey, it works. Lead shot is the heaviest, smallest thing I could think of. So, okay, so lights, wires, shrink tubing, battery, switch, clippers, wire strippers. I'm trying to think. I mean, pin vise. Again, it all just comes down to planning. You can magnetize just about anything. And again, drilling into an expensive Forge World model in order to do this kind of thing is scary. I'm not going to, no bones about it. It's frightening to start doing this with such an investment of money. But if you just take your time, you go at it slowly, you'll end up with something that's just even better than what it started. And, of course, if you're not sure about something, definitely reach out and ask somebody, because there's probably somebody that that's already done something this crazy and could offer you some advice. I know Dave and I have both done it, so you could reach out to us. We're more than happy to help you out with something like that. And yeah. Like
if you want to go full nutcase, check out Chris Buxey on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
this guy puts them inside Marines
Okay, that's crazy.
and makes the eyeballs light up. I don't know if you can see this. Makes really, really good. Can you see? He's done the
Oh, wow.
eyes on
Oh,
the Contemptor and the Gatling gun.
oh,
The
that's
assault
crazy.
cannon is actually rotating.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, this guy is there. He's got a glowing power sword
Oh
and
shit.
and two glowing eyes, and he just uses a 3-cell battery in the base of each of his models, and he
Like,
drills out the entire legs, body,
yeah.
everything.
Like, oh, you might want a Dremel to do this too. That would come in handy for stuff as well.
Yeah, I think a Dremel would be if you're gonna ball something out, say
Yeah.
like a helmet of something or
Like,
something that's a bit bigger.
I'll screw with lights and hinging the doors on a Demos pattern Rhino. I don't know if I'm gonna fuck with like electric motors and shit. That's just, I mean, that's fucking awesome, but that's like way too crazy for me.
That's a great
A
unclean
lit
one
up greener.
that's
Oh
lit
God,
up from the inside.
that is
It's
that is
but
insane.
he's got I think he's got a blog that he does write ups about. That's it. Look for blogs and just type in like model
Just type it,
LED or
yeah, LEDs for modeling or something like that.
yeah.
There's YouTube tutorials, there's blogs about it, and all kinds of stuff.
Google is your best friend.
It is. It is. Dave, is there anything else you can think of that we haven't covered on the topic of lighting?
I don't think so.
So I don't think I have a whole lot else other than just take your time, really plan it out before you even start cutting or drilling or anything like that. And if you just take your time, go slow, check your progress. Anytime you make a new connection or you glue something related to the lighting system in place, always test it before you go any further. I mean, test it 3 or 4 times before you glue something up that once the glue dries, you're not going to be able to access it anymore. Just a lot of test fitting and testing and planning and stuff like that.
Even
And
just do what at work we would call it a drop test. It just means turn the battery on with your LEDs on and see how long it lasts.
yeah.
See how long you want to get out of it. An average game would be what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
If you want to get 3 hours worth of light out of it. I mean, my night, that's only running. So I'm running 2. So I'm running a pair of 3 volts per set of lights. So I've got 2 battery packs for the eye. I've got a battery pack for the eyes and a battery pack for the gun. But I've used that. I've had that running for hours and hours. I had it running for a full day at Games Workshop, like an 8-hour day on my display board. And I've done, I think, three battles with it. So I've used it a fair few hours and I've never changed the batteries on that. But if you're running something that flashes, that's using up more energy.
Yeah, like
but
mine.
obviously yours is flashing, but it's a smaller type of LED.
And I don't think mine so far has actually been run for more than 60 seconds at a time.
Yeah, because you're only doing testing with it and sort of showing off.
I'm not going to, because I'm going to have the doors on the front of it closed for a game. So I'm not going to, I'm probably not even going to have it plugged in for a game. It's mostly just like a show part. I mean, it is going to be like the centerpiece of my army because it's by far the biggest model in my army, my only flyer. But again, I'm not going to be using it constantly. It's not part of the model because if you didn't know it was there, you just look at the paintwork and everything. You wouldn't know that it was lit up. But again, just one of those things you can do, just super detailed, just a little bit more in depth. So if you feel your paint skills are lacking, but like how to craft shit or something, or you just want to make something that's just like super awesome.
Yep.
Throw some lights at it.
Definitely go check out our Instagrams and see George's.
Yeah, there's pictures of it all over on our Instagram, which is at SMWG Podcast. You can go check that out. Quick rundown of events, the 2 that I can think of off the top of my head, even though I don't have exact dates, but they will be in the show notes. Of course, Circulus Ignis Part 2 or Act 2 coming up in June, I believe, down in Nashville, put on by Music City Heresy. And then, of course, the 40K, not 40K, God damn it, Heresy Narrative event, a 3-day event at the Bug Eater GT in Omaha, Nebraska, coming up the first weekend of June. It is a 3-day event. So you've got Zone Mortalis on Friday. You've got 2,500 point battles on Saturday, and then an Apocalypse battle on Sunday. Again, links for that should be in the show notes below. I actually just talked to Sean about it this weekend. They should be getting the event pack out pretty soon. So definitely go check that out. I'm hoping to make it for the Saturday of the Bug Eater, but we will see. If not, I might just drive out there to hang out for a while. There's the only events I can think of off the top of my head. If you have an event you'd like us to shout out, send us an email, smwgpod@gmail.com, or shoot us a message on our Facebook page. We've got a fan page and a group now.
If you want us to mess up a list for you?
Yes, we will. We are very good at messing up lists. We do it to our own all the time.
I think I've written a solid Solar Auxiliary one.
Oh, that's good. Because I can't write lists for shit, but I do it anyway.
Yeah. I don't mind an illegal list now and then.
Let's see. Anything else? Of course, the new Heresy Hobby Clinic. Whatever you want. I don't even remember what I called it earlier. The Heresy Hobby Helpline.
The George needs to visit the clinic helpline.
Yes. Just send me an email. Send me an email at mediocremodelingstudios@gmail.com. We can set up a time, and I'll be more than happy to try and help you out while I hobby.
Yeah, there's quite a cool thing that's been going on recently with the new app called Discord. I think it's Hobby Vices has been on there, but there's been quite a few people putting chats in there. If you're not on Instagram or you're not on Twitter, like I'm not on Twitter, but I know that a lot of people post up on Twitter. If you want to see some really cool like pictures and things all in one place, just to look at pictures or chat bullshit.
Pictures are always good. We like pictures.
Yeah, man.
So that's all I have for this episode. I know we're running right about an hour, so perfect timing. Dave, is there anything else you'd like to announce before we go?
I'm pregnant. I'm not.
Oh, wife?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Dog's enough.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids and a cat. That's more than enough.
Yep.
Okay, folks. Well, I don't have a new tagline yet, but if Dave wants to throw out the old one, that's...
Nah.
Good. All right. Well, again, folks, thanks for tuning in. We sure do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, any questions, comments, concerns, just let us know. We'd love to hear from you and about anything related to the Heresy or the show. So don't be afraid to drop us a line. We love talking about this stuff. So on that note, I do believe that we'll wrap us up for this episode. I don't even know what episode number we're on because I stopped keeping track. So we're probably pushing 30 by this point. I could really go and add it up if I cared, but I don't. So
no, we've changed, haven't we? We're on the episode description now.
Yeah, I just put it in the.
If you want to listen to the episode where we talk about LEDs, just go to the one that's titled LEDs.
Yeah, something like that. We'll give it a name so you know it's about
lights and shit.
Light work. What work? Yeah, something like that. You'll figure it out because obviously you've just listened to it, so you probably figured it out already.
Well done.
All right, folks. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. So until then, happy modeling.
Peace.
All right. I'm going to export that and save it so I can listen to it shortly.
Yay. I'm going to go put the dog to bed.
Yeah, I need to text my wife and tell her she can come back with the kids.
You may return now.
Yep. Okay, I'll try. I should have time to listen through this tonight and probably get it edited and hopefully remember to put in the clip of my kids trying the Kinder eggs.
Yeah, man.
It really wasn't that exciting, but still, it's cool. So, yeah, I really appreciate you sending that. It was really cool to try some of that stuff.
Yeah,
and
man.
remind just how good McVitie's were.
Well, get yourself down to the store and get some more.
I'm gonna have to do that. Oh, holy crap! Someone's actually watching this right now, right as we're about to
Whoa.
end.
Who?
Hey,
Who
hi,
are
hi,
you?
one viewer.
Hello.
I don't have the comments up, so I'm not watching.
Oh,
I can't find out what's going on.
um,
Maybe
I
I'll
don't
bring it up
know.
real quick on my phone and find out. See if they comment and tell us who the hell they are.
Comment now.
Any?
Is it just through the YouTube channel?
It's Noob with a brush.
Yay!
He's been here for 10 minutes. Well, that
Oh,
must have been the most disappointing 10 minutes of your life.
I can make it more disappointing if you want.
Oh, there's a second viewer right as we're about to end. Man, that sucks.
Whoa!
Well, the thing is, we don't announce when these are actually going to happen, so it's just pure luck.
Well,
Then it kind
yeah.
of ruins it because then it's like you listen to the show before it actually comes out and you can listen to it on your headphones. So, oh, he says it was disappointing.
Oh.
Well, on that bombshell, we're going to go ahead and call it a night for some of us, or an afternoon, because it's only 3:30 in the afternoon right now. So, well, sorry you guys missed most of the show, but you can rewatch the whole thing on YouTube and then just yell at us later over the internet.
Have you nothing better to do?
I think that's a fairly good use of time, honestly.
I do. I think it's definitely good to have in the background, isn't it?
Internet nerd rage. All right. Well, with that, it is time to call it a night. So, peace out.
Sweet.